can try and win championships, and that's what it's all about. When you look from the outside and you watch this team, I know we're going to have a real good, solid hockey team this year.
Welcome back to Fireside Rangers. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Eric Wilson. And the New York Rangers are kicking off rookie camp tomorrow. Got the schedule in front of us. We'll break it down for you. Stay tuned for all of the updates on rookie camp because we're going to be discussing it all day, every day, right here on Fireside Rangers. But without further ado, let's go ahead, take a look at the schedule. It's going to last from tomorrow, Wednesday, September 14th, through Tuesday, September 20th, and we'll feature 2 games versus the Flyers at PPL Center in Allentown, which is going to be really, really exciting to watch. So, as the preseason kicks off, we've got practice on the 14th, the 15th, game on the 16th, game on the 17th, on ice testing on the 19th, and in one final practice on the 20th. This is basically just ramping up right towards the preseason, which is right around the corner. I mean, this takes us to September 20th, and then we're talking about October 11th being the day of the start of the Rangers 2022-23 season. So today we're going to talk about some of the players that we think you should keep an eye on during rookie camp, some of these young guys that we want to, keep a close eye on, see how they perform. But before we really dive into that, Eric, how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing good. Very exciting that Rangers hockey is right upon us right now. And, throughout this rookie camp, I'm actually kind of happy that the 2 games we're playing are against the Flyers because I know it is just the rookies and it is an NHL organization, but it's one of the most poorly run organizations, not the best. So hopefully we'll just get to see our rookies go out there, have 2 fun, easy games and really can just show us what they're made of.
Yeah, for sure. And then, there are some rumors coming out of Rangers camp right now talking about Nils Lundqvist and how he could potentially be traded. That's something that we're going to continue to give you updates on. We did a video discussing that rumor last week. Make sure to go check that out on the channel. But we'll give you updates if he does end up getting traded or if these rumors start to heat up as we head into camp. But let's go through the New York Rangers rookie camp roster, discuss these names, and then a few specifically that we think should be kept with an eye on. Now, first of all, on the roster with the forwards, you've got Adam Sikora, Bryce McConnell-Barker, Bobby Trevino, Lori Pujanaimi, Will Cuylle, Carl Henriksen, Matt Rempe, Brennan Othman, Patrick Kodorenko, Ryder Korczak, Adam Edstrom, Maxim Barbashev, Jaden Group. Those are your forwards for rookie camp. Taking a look at the defensemen, Ty Emberson, Luca Hinault, Zach Jones, name to keep an eye on for sure. Luke Martin, Matthew Robertson, another name to keep an eye on. Brandon Scanlon, and Hunter Skinner. And then the goaltenders, Talon Boyko, Dylan Durand, and Olaf Lindbaum. So there's a lot of names here. Eric, who right off the bat stands out to you that you're keeping an eye on before we really dive into our 3 or 4 or 5 players?
Well, I mean, obviously, as we've mentioned a lot throughout this offseason, Brennan Othman, I think he's the number 1 name to watch. He has probably the highest chance out of anyone throughout this rookie camp, who has the highest chance to make the team. So I'm very excited to see him. On the defensive end of things, like you said, Zach Jones too. We've seen him play a little bit. Very exciting to see that. And then, just Adam Sikora as well. We just drafted him this year. I don't know too much about him, but it's going to be nice to see him play for the first time and really just figure out what his game is like.
Yeah, for sure. And as you mentioned off the bat was Brennan Othman. That's a player that we've talked about a lot on this channel. We think he could potentially make an impact right away. Could enter the bottom 6 of the Rangers lineup at some point during the regular season. We do think that is a possibility. Of course, 2021 first-round pick, 16th overall, 19 years old, scored 50 goals and 97 points in 66 games last season as the Firebirds captain. He just wrapped up their training camp and is getting ready to make a serious push to be on the Rangers opening night roster. He's one of the – it's possible he could be a third-line winger. That's totally possible, but, he might not be. We're going to see how he plays during rookie camp, training camp, preseason, all that kind of stuff. But, Eric, what do you like so much about Brennan Othman, and why do you feel like he's the number 1 guy to keep an eye on?
I think he's just the strongest player all around. We know that he can put up points. We've seen him do that throughout the World Juniors and in training camp and pretty much everything else that we've seen him do. And, even though it might not be a very high number, I still think he has a 30% chance of making the team on opening night, depending on how this camp and preseason goes. But like I said, not the highest number, but compared to a lot of these other guys, I'd gladly take a 30% chance at being on an opening night New York Rangers roster right now.
Yeah, and I think that, it's 30% right now, but let's see how he plays during camp, right?
Yeah.
If he performs well, I could totally see Brennan Othman, because everything we're hearing about Brennan Othman, everything we're seeing in the highlights and all the games that we've seen, especially at the World Juniors, as you mentioned, the kid is lighting it up every chance that he gets. He's come into play and he's playing extremely well, as I mentioned, with those stats. A lot of points. He had 97 total points in 66 games last season. Of course, not against NHL competition, but against the competition he was playing against, he dominated it. So maybe he can just make an impact in the NHL. But the next name I do want to discuss is Cuylle, 2020 round 2 pick, 60th overall. He's a big physical dude, huge guy, and he might actually fight to be in the bottom 6 as well. A lot of people think that Cuylle could end up playing in the bottom 6 of the Rangers lineup. So out of all the guys that we're going to discuss, Othman and Cuylle are probably the two that have the greatest chance of reaching the Rangers starting lineup during the regular season. Eric, what are you thinking about Cuylle, and why are you keeping an eye on him?
I mean, like we've seen him for like a year now. He was drafted in 2020, so I've been following him just a little bit. As you mentioned, big guy, big power forward, and the only way I can really see him making the lineup early on in the season is if we see an injury in the bottom 6, or if someone like Ryan Reeves is just really not playing up to par, and you want to throw a younger talent in there. Like I said, I do think that Othman does have the highest chance of making the team. But I wouldn't say it's out of the question at all for Cuylle to be on the lineup at some point throughout this season.
Yeah, and that's really the thing, is he going to develop to somehow be out there at some point this season? But as we mentioned, really big guy, 6'4", 209 pounds, and taking a look, at some of his stats, 43 goals and 80 points in 59 games with the Windsor Spitfires last season. So very productive in the competition he was playing with, but we'll see if he's able to crack his way back into the Rangers lineup and maybe compete for a position on the bottom 6. But next name I want to discuss, Eric, I know you like Matthew Robertson. You mentioned him yesterday. We put a little poll on the community page asking you guys who you're most excited to see. Pretty much everyone said Brennan Othman, which we expected, but Matthew Robertson is one of the names that we did put on that poll. So, Eric, what are your thoughts on Matthew Robertson? Why are you excited to see him play?
I mean, he's a great defenseman. He's a big guy as well, 6'4", 201 pounds. And, I do think that Zach Jones does have him beat out, mainly because we've already seen Zach Jones play for the team a little bit. And we know that he does play well against, not against, but with Braden Schneider right next to him. So I don't think that he's going to make the lineup anytime soon, especially with the defensive depth that we have. Which is like one of the reasons why Nils Lundkvist requested a trade, because he knows he's not going to have a proper spot in the lineup. So it's kind of the same thing as Cuylle. Unless we see an injury or someone's just really not playing that well, I don't think Robertson will make the lineup. Maybe in like 2 or 3 seasons, possibly. But we could also just use him as a trade piece at the trade deadline too.
True.
There's a lot of players on that defensive pipeline right now. But overall, I do think he is a good player. And, if he does make the lineup, I wouldn't complain whatsoever.
Yeah, Robertson posted 11 points in 65 games for the Hartford Wolfpack last season. And we still think that he could develop. But honestly, competing with Zach Jones and some of these other guys on the back end, it's going to be an uphill battle for us to see Matthew Robertson on the Rangers lines this season. But next name I want to discuss, Adam Edstrom. Now, this guy is just a mammoth of a human being, 21 years old, but he's 6'8", 225 pounds. Formidable, a big, mean guy on the ice, hard hitter. He's someone that might go on your fourth line, start cracking some heads, throwing some guys up against the glass and just being that big, beastly presence on the ice. So, Eric, Adam Edstrom, 2019 round 6 pick. What are your thoughts on him?
I know very little about Edstrom. I did not know that he was that large before you just said that. 6'8", that's a crazy number. I like to redact my statement where I said if Ryan Reeves played bad, we'd put in Cuylle. I'd rather have Edstrom in there. He's that big. I don't know how good he is offensively, but if his role is meant to be a fourth line enforcer, then hell yeah, put him in. Like he's definitely now going to be one of the players that I'm looking for throughout this rookie camp. Definitely.
Yeah, he's a 6'8" forward, plays on the wing, plays a little bit of center. Very interesting prospect right there, like super a total anomaly, like you don't see many guys like that. So if that's a player that, is able to develop into something, he could be something really, really special.
And keep in mind, he is also only 21. So he does have a couple seasons to grow and develop his game before I think he really needs to earn a spot on the team.
Yeah, a lot of time for this giant 6'8", forward to grow into his own. So it'll be interesting to see what his potential really could be and if he's able to maximize it. The last player that we want to dive into real quickly is Gustav Rydal. He's an undrafted player that the Rangers signed. He's 27 years old, free agent out of the SHL. He scored 30 points in 44 games last season, and he's curious to see if he can make his way into the NHL. 6'3", 201-pound forward, can play center, and he was clutch over in the SHL. He was a clutch performer, won the SHL championship. He put in 12 points in 19 games, so he's a pretty decent player. He's waivers exempt as well, so there's a chance we could see him this season, even if he doesn't make the team out of camp. They could always just bring him back later on during the season. So Gustav Rydal, interesting guy, a lot older than the other guys that we just mentioned. But Eric, what are your thoughts on Gustav?
I mean, it sounds like he's good. His numbers are solid. I'm sure he'd be a great player for the team. But, it's just with all these offensive rookies we got going in, I still think that Othman or Cuylle would just be just better, unfortunately. Which is I say unfortunately, but this is a problem that I'm really happy that we have is just the surplus of talent on our team. So I love that we can just argue over who do we think is the best of the best instead of just being one good guy, everyone else sucks. So I don't know. I don't know much about Rydal. I'd still take Othman though.
Yeah, I think we're all going to be in the same boat leading towards Brennan Othman. Brennan Othman, again, just a super exciting prospect, somebody that all Rangers fans are really excited to see take the ice this week, and especially, potentially in the regular season if he's able to fight and compete for that spot and earn it.
Yeah, I think we definitely see Othman on the Rangers at some point this season.
Yeah, I would say so as well. Here's a quick quote from Brennan Othman before we wrap things up. Quote, "I want to keep the pace of play up. Keeping that confidence from this camp to Rangers camp is going to be huge," end quote. This was him discussing his Flint Firebirds camp prior to, this week's camp with the Rangers. So he's confident. He's excited. He had a great camp, and he's ready for another one, and he's ready to make his way onto the Rangers lines, and I'm excited to watch him play. And, of course, like I mentioned, make sure to subscribe to Fireside Rangers down below because we're going to be giving you updates on Brennan Othman and all these other prospects throughout the week. It's a full week of practice right before we head into preseason and all that fun stuff. So, like I said, make sure to subscribe. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video. Comment down below who you're keeping an eye on and who you're most excited to watch during rookie camp. And we'll catch you on the next one. Have a good one. And let's go Rangers.
Let's go Rangers.
He shoots. He scores. Rangers.